begin with a short, mindful, and guided meditation. And I invite you to relax, to stretch, to yawn, to find a comfortable position in your chair. See if you can make yourself just 5 or 10% more comfortable. And notice how you feel as you begin to settle into some stillness. I invite you to bring your attention to the breath, taking some easy, gentle breaths in and out. In and out. Feeling the belly rise on the inhalation and gently fall on the exhalation. If you notice any tension or aches in your body, I just invite you to bring some loving attention with your breath into that space. Maybe take a nice, long, slow, deep breath in and exhale fully. And as you exhale, I invite you to soften your jaw, let your shoulders relax, and maybe let the tongue drop from the roof of your mouth if it's pressed up. As we settle into this brief space of stillness, I invite you to take in the following words. Let us take a moment, this moment, to be present to our glorious bodies, our home for this journey we call life. For just this moment, can we love our bodies just as we are right now? Notice what emerges inside of you with that question. Can we love our bodies just as they are in this moment? I want to invite you on an exploration of your body, asking some questions. Asking the question, does it work? John Kabat-Zinn claims that as long as we're breathing, there is a lot more working for us than not. So does it work? Do your eyes open in the morning and close gently for sleep in the evening? Do your ears hear? Does your nose smell flowers or a fresh rain? Does the brain remember the sounds of sweet music or baby laughter? And our lips, do they shape the sounds of loving words and our sighs? Your heart, does it beat just for you? Does it open itself to love again and again, despite pain and disappointment? Do your lungs take in air and let it out? Do your fingers open and close to hold and to release? Do your toes curl and grab and stretch and let go? Indeed, how could you not love your body, the one you've been given to live your life out? The body you've been given to live your life out. Blessed by the one who made owl and redwood and turtle dove and hippopotamus and snake and whale. This body your body, is a gift given to you to experience this amazing journey called life. As we gently begin to bring our attention back to this room and space, I invite you to feel the chair supporting you and the structure of this warm sanctuary supporting us all. Feel the ambiance of the air on your skin, the sounds and energy of your neighbors beside you. As you begin to feel ready, I invite you to gently wiggle fingers and toes. And when you're ready, gently, ever so gently, I invite you to open your eyes and rejoin our loving community. Good morning. Pete asked me during the week, how would something this music or that, and I think I've lightened up a whole lot on my controlling self. I think before when I used to get up here, I'd say, okay, let's do this, this, this. And I was like, no, I trust you. But I gotta say, the drummers, thank you so much. I love the energy. Thank you for doing a song ad-lib like that. It was amazing. So. And I'm just so grateful. It's such an honor to be asked to speak and stand before you all anytime. And especially today, because I feel very passionate about the topic that I'm going to be sharing with you, but I'm also so profoundly aware of all the support that goes into someone standing here. Thank you to the technical team, to people holding energy, to musicians, to everybody. So thank you, thank you. So we're going to talk about body trust today. And I'm very well aware that the Daily Word this morning said we are spiritual beings. We are so much more than our physical beings, right? And okay. I'm not going to argue, but I'm going to tell you this. There's another phrase that I hear in Unity a lot, and that is, and maybe you can help me finish it at the end, we are spiritual beings having I heard a combination of human and physical, but yeah, human physical experience. So we're going to spend some time on that time here, because as we talked about in the meditation, your body is your physical vehicle for this amazing journey called life. And I was wondering, as I prepared this, is it really okay to talk about bodies? Because I'm going to be doing that today. Is it really okay to talk about bodies at Unity and at Unity of Madison on a Sunday morning? What do you think? Yeah? Good. I'm glad, because and I think there's good precedence for it, because our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, many of you may know this story, but she actually healed herself of tuberculosis when she was younger. And that was kind of a turning point for the birth of Unity and why we are all sitting in this room here today to begin with. And we can have a conversation about what the science or the spirituality was around that healing. But she began her healing by sitting and being still in her body in meditation, and she apologized to every part of her body for the thoughts that she had held about it. And then she went on to acknowledge that there was this incredible wisdom and intelligence literally vibrating in every cell of her body. So I think we do stand on pretty strong precedents this morning. Bodies are so interesting, and it's such a culturally loaded topic. And I don't mind telling you that I never in a million years thought that I would be standing in front of you, let alone with a microphone on, in public and talking about this. For many years of my life, I held a lot of self-consciousness and a lot of personal body shame about my own body. James Joyce wrote a short story. My daughter, the English major, is smiling. Yay, she's mentioning English. It's called A Painful Case, and in it, a quote is, "Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body." I did too. I think a lot of us do. We live in our heads. For me, that was a great refuge, and spirituality was a great refuge, and I kind of ignored what happened from here down. I don't think that message is unique to just me. So I want to say, I keep referring so I don't forget the important bits. I want to say that some of the things that I'm going to say this morning may be new to some of you, Some of you may find them as a breath of fresh air, and I'm willing to bet that there are a whole bunch of you that might find them challenging. So I want to pull back on what Pete taught us last week about the fifth agreement, about having some skepticism. Now, I'm not talking about being skeptical about what I'm saying. Let's get that clear. What I'm asking you to do is hold a healthy skepticism about the paradigms you walked in with and the things that we agree to and think that we know, but we don't question. Just like people used to think the earth was flat, or they used to think that the sun and everything revolved around the earth. And to challenge those beliefs was quite threatening and dangerous for folks. So I want you to listen. I'm asking you to listen with a little bit of an open mind for the next 20 minutes, and we'll move forward. I want to acknowledge that every person that entered this sanctuary today came in with a completely unique and different body, a body with its own challenges and a body with its own capabilities. And that's completely normal. The problem comes in because in our society, we value some bodies and we give privilege and easy access and passage. And other bodies are less included, and we kind of, even worse, we can demean, we can discriminate, we can make it terribly difficult for them. The chronic stress that's associated with that kind of a treatment can create a whole lot more health conditions than the inherent body itself. So it's pretty important to tease out what is individual that I work with to enhance my own vibrancy and what is coming from without. Does that make sense? I'm going to use myself as an example after a sip of water. I stand before you today with a whole bunch of privileges, largely unearned. For example, when I was born white, I was born cisgendered, I was born heterosexual, able-bodied. I'm also middle class and fairly well educated. Those are things that open doors for me and make my life a whole lot easier. A couple things that might be a little bit more challenging in our society. I was born a woman in a society that grants privilege largely to men and to white men. And I'm a bit on the plus side in a society that dramatically and overwhelmingly favors thinness, especially in women. So if you were a betting person and you wanted to hedge your bets and say, hey, Linda, maybe you could do a few things that would then grant you complete access to the land of health, wealth, and good and plenty, maybe just try a diet. See what happens, lose a little bit of weight. So I'm going to share personally, when did dieting enter my life? When I was about 10 years old, I would have been objectively described as running on the slender to normal size. And I have a bit older sister who would have been described as on the normal to slightly chubby side. And my mother, wanting to ward off this impending damage, quotes, decided that as a family we would all embark on the Atkins plan. So this was early 70s, I'm dating myself. And what the Atkins plan meant for our family is that on the weekends when we might sit and watch a movie at night, instead of having popcorn, we might have cottage cheese and pickles. Yay, right? Nothing wrong with those foods until that's what you're only supposed to eat. That kind of set me off on a very early path of not trusting my own body of what, when, and how much to eat, because the experts really knew that my body wasn't okay unless I followed this plan. And what followed was really decades of dieting until you see the woman before you today. Because here's a little secret that I'll hope you share with everyone. Diets don't work. They don't work. And trust me, there are people that know this, even though it's still broadly prescribed. The thing is, our bodies have been designed, we've evolved to hold on to weight, right? And maybe you've heard of the set point range or theory, something along that line, that you have approximately a weight range that your body is very comfortable to stay in. When you lose out of that range, and it's not a big range, it might be about a 10, 15 pound range. When you lose out of that, your body kicks in a bunch of compensatory mechanisms to try and regain and hold on to, because your body doesn't know the difference between restrictive eating with an intention to lose weight for whatever, appearance, health, whatever, and starvation. So what do I mean by that? Some of the early things that your body can do is it can start changing your hormones. And a couple of those are leptin and ghrelin, and they're responsible for our sense of hunger and our fullness and satiety. So you may find yourself hungry, thinking about food all the time. They've done studies. There was a study done in the 40s with men, and they reduced their caloric restriction. They reduced their calories. It wasn't really that low by today's standards. I think it was about 2,000 calories. They dreamed about food. They thought about food. They looked at recipes. So it starts kicking in. If that doesn't work, if you can muscle through that, your body reduces your thermoregulation, which is a fancy way of saying keeping your body temperature stable. It takes energy to do that. And maybe many or all of us have known people that have lost weight, or ourselves, where all of a sudden you feel cold a lot. Muscle on through that one, your body's going to turn your metabolism down. You're going to take a whole lot less energy to maintain a particular weight than you did before. And this is something that they've seen with the participants in the television show, The Biggest Loser, which I really hope is off the air. Grueling diet and exercise regimes, people losing dramatic weights. And they've looked at these participants 7 and 8 years out, and their metabolism is still greatly reduced. It makes it near impossible to maintain a much lower body weight. The $61 billion diet industry wants you to believe that it's a matter of willpower. Of course they do. They want you to keep coming back. Willpower is a very poor competitor for biology. The long-term data regarding diets, and when I say diets, I'm talking about everything. Any diet across the board that you look at, whether it's low carb, high carb, counting points, shakes, whatever it is, the long-term data is this. 97% of dieters will regain their weight, and many more than that, within 3 years of their initial weight loss. At 5 years, your chances of keeping weight off from a diet are roughly equivalent to your chances of surviving metastatic lung cancer, about 5%. I used to work in the pharmaceutical industry, which is a fact that I usually apologize for, but I can guarantee you that no drug would pass through the FDA with a 95% failure rate. But the thin ideal in our society and diet culture create even greater damage. In addition to low self-esteem and personal shame, yo-yo dieting, you're going down and regaining and losing again, it's linked with, among other things, heart disease, insulin resistance, increased blood pressure, inflammation, and long-term weight gain, ironically. Stanford conducted a meta-analysis looking at data across the board and found that the single largest risk factor for being at a higher weight was a history of dieting. Worse yet, when we see ourselves as constant fixer-upper projects, I'll go for that job when? I'll go for that relationship when? I'll travel that dream trip when my body is X, Y, or Z. We end up living much smaller lives. But what about health, Linda? Health is important. We all hear it. You've got to be at a healthy weight, right? Pretty common. I want to take a look at 2 predominant misconceptions in this area. This is where your open-mindedness is going to come in too. A lot of us has heard being fat makes you die earlier, right? That's one. Another one is being fat causes illnesses. We've all heard that. Let's take a look at the science at that. Counselor, professor, and activist Dr. Linda Bacon addresses this in her book, Body Respect. The first one, does obesity increase mortality? There have been about 40 large-scale studies addressing this question, and all but a very few predominantly answer it the same way. In fact, our Centers for Disease Control published in the peer-reviewed Journal of the American Medical Association the results of this, and here's what they found. They found that people in the so-called overweight BMI category lived the longest of anyone, and that the people that lived in the mild to the moderate obesity level lived at the same length of time as those in the quote-unquote normal weight category. When you get farther out on the spectrum, either extremely low BMI or extremely high BMI, the data gets a little bit more complicated. But when we talk about body trust principles later on, they're practical to those groups as well. So does being fat cause disease? Well, to say that is kind of comparable to saying there's a higher incidence of heart disease in bald men, so baldness must cause heart disease. Patients with lung cancer often have yellow teeth. Yellow teeth causes lung cancer. It gets tangled. Epidemiological studies are brilliant at seeing associations between conditions, but they have a lot of constraints on finding direct cause and effect. So what does affect health? Because health is kind of important. I think we can agree with that. Not that anyone owes anybody a moral mandate to be healthy, but we kind of want to feel good and walk through our lives. What does affect it? There are a whole bunch of things that affect health. There were studies showing that your social connections and relationships, your sense of a higher purpose as something good, your sense of being able to bring forth your creative expression in the world. But we're going to address two today. One is fitness. The Cooper Institute in Dallas, Texas, maybe some of you have heard of it. It's a renowned institute that has been addressing the role of fitness in our lives. And the question that they're trying to address is what's more important in health or illness, fitness or fatness? And over 20 years of research, it's overwhelmingly fitness is the answer. In fact, a fit individual, when an individual is physically fit, BMI becomes almost irrelevant. One of the primary investigators, Dr. Stephen Blair, likes to put it this way. Before I started running, I was short, fat, and bald. And after over 20 years of near daily running and over 70,000 miles logged, I'm still short, fat, and bald. What about the role of stigma? What role might that play in people's health? Larger body people have a harder time in our society. If you look at media representation, whether it's in magazines, newspapers, comedians, movies, television, there's a characteristic stereotype that's not very flattering. They're portrayed in a really negative way. And despite few legal protections, larger bodied people are less likely to be hired, they're less likely to be promoted, and they're more likely to earn less than their slimmer counterparts doing comparable work. Our medical system badly discriminates against weight. And I could go in, that could be the whole talk today, but I'm not going to do that. But withholding necessary surgeries despite scientific evidence showing that the outcome is no different. Stigmatization causes a great deal of chronic stress, and that stress is clearly associated with many, many health conditions. So let me take a step back. I'm not saying that every person, regardless of their size, is healthy. I'm not saying that everyone is at their naturally ideal weight. I'm not even saying that there's not any relationship at all between weight and health. But what I am saying is that relationship between weight and health has been wildly exaggerated. When we focus on weight and fat rather than body respect and trust, we overlook how complicated it really is. And we miss our opportunity to make changes that have been proven successful, such as the clinical trials in intuitive eating that show far greater metabolic health benefits than a diet group. We have much firmer ground when we focus on improving our health directly rather than using weight as a mediator and going down the rabbit hole that entails. I want to say this right now, that letting go of dieting is not the screw-it plan. I learned about and have been practicing body trust for several years, and I can tell you that hands down, I've done holistic nutrition, I've done mind-body eating, all important, they all play their role. But learning to accept a body trust practice has changed my life in profound and foundational ways where nothing else did in quite the same way. Choosing that path is actually quite the contrary of the screw-it plan. It's an exquisite, self-accepting, self-honoring, self-care plan. The thing is, body diversity, if you look around the room today, if you look when you're walking down the street or wherever you go, it's a real phenomenon. And that's true within a population, and that's true within an individual's lifespan. There's no one-size-fits-all mandate around weight and size. And what individual bodies require to function at their best is, well, individual. I have a short video that I'd like to share with you guys that kind of says it pretty well. So Ari, John, could you put that up? The video kind of says it all. I didn't have to do any of this. I told Anya there's something I wanted to share and I didn't know where to throw it in, so it might sound like I'm just plunking it in here, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's kind of powerful. I want to ask you a question. How much did Rosa Parks weigh when she sat on the bus? How much did Harriet Tubman weigh when she helped people find freedom in their lives? How much did Malala weigh when she started girls' schools in Pakistan and won the Nobel Prize? We don't know, do we? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What I'm proposing is that we reclaim body trust because every ounce of you is sacred, and it's loaded with intelligence, just as our co-founder Myrtle Fillmore knew and healing herself. I am absolutely thrilled and delighted to have been asked to facilitate the women's retreat this year, and we're going to be talking about this topic a whole lot more. And what we're going to be talking about are the components of a body trust practice. I haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about that here, but we'll be talking about things such as weight-neutral self-care, your totality, your mental, your spiritual, your emotional, your physical health, without a focus on a number on a scale. Talking about intuitive eating and getting in touch with our sense of hunger and satiety and fullness and pleasure and taking away the food police. Talking about joyful movement. So many of us have such an interesting relationship with movement and exercise. I know I did. You know, it was like, you got to exercise to lose weight, right? And you got to do it so many minutes a week, and you got to do it at a certain intensity. That kind of warps things. But here's the thing. Our bodies love movement, and they love to engage in that. So the answer is to find something that you find complete joy in, because then you're going to do it. Also, we may live and move and have our being in spirit. We talk about that a lot, right? But we live and move and have our body in a complete body-shaming culture. So at the retreat, we're also going to be talking about important skills like building self-compassion and resilience. And lastly, about redefining success. What does success look like? I've gone to many women's retreats, over the years with this community, and they are a wonderful opportunity to make new friends and to deepen relationships and to learn about cool and fun things. This is life transforming, guys. It really is. I feel bad for those of you that are men, but maybe we can talk later. Anyway, if you have ever struggled with eating or food, if you have ever struggled with issues of body image, if you have ever held yourself back because my body isn't right for this retreat is really important for you. If you know anyone who has done these things, retreat is really important for you. It's going to be a one-day retreat here. Yes, Laura, March 30th, Saturday. I think the registration table is open today. And of course, you can register online and continue. So I really, really invite you, and I hope to see anyone in here that identifies as a female to come. You are more than welcome. And lastly, I want to end with the idea that all bodies, whether you are short or tall or fat or thin or differently abled or gay or straight or cisgendered or transgendered, all bodies are worthy of respect and dignity and equality, and they are all miraculous. Namaste.